And welcome, everybody. It's another Calgary Real Estate Show. Happy almost Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de
Yes.
Mayo -1.
It's May the 4th.
Yeah,
Yes,
May the 4th be with
right.
you.
May the 4th be with all of you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like the rides at Disney World and Disneyland. I've been on all of them. They're amazing. But I watched the original movies, and we should have had a theme. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, but we did not. I missed the boat there. Sorry, people out there. But we have a lot to get to today, so let's get right to it. So before we get going, we're going to wrap up April. Jaden and I did a presentation at our business networking group last night. So we're going to give you our take on how the rest of the year, what does the rest of the year look like in Calgary real estate? You're going to want to stay tuned to the end of today's live to hear our hot take on the rest of the year for the Calgary real estate market. Weekly stats, not a lot of change from last week. We still are obliterating new listings with our solds. Down to 128% sales to new listing ratio this week. Pendings at 253. Price reduced, very similar. I mean, it's very much a carbon copy of the last month, really. And that is to be expected as we are now deep in the throes of our spring real estate market. Days on market for detached, overall was 24. Natalie will recap that more on the next slide. And then our active detached down slightly, full active down slightly as well. I'm going to rip right through this and send it over to you, Natalie, for the time machine.
All right, let's go down the time machine. Okay, total sales are down 11.3% or 30% from last year at 675. New listings are down 21.71%. Actives are down 33.39%. That's a lot. Pendings are down 15%, and average price, days on market is up 4.35% from 23 days to 24 days.
Yeah, and the story really remains the same. Total sales, I think we're down a little more than the last couple of weeks, but still look at the gap between total sales and active and even new listings. It's creating the market that we have right now. So was it last week that we sold Country Hills, Natalie?
Yes.
I don't know if we told people about this. So last week we put up I think we told people about it in the live that we're putting it up, as well as the one in Carstairs. But anyway, the story is that we put up this listing for an estate, and we had over 50 showings, between 50 and 60. We actually lost track in 2 days. We had 15 offers, and we're firm sold now. We had the first offer fall through due to financing, which happens, and we went back to another unconditional offer, and they were happy to take it. So, and that is a listing that was, I wouldn't call it a cream puff. It had been smoked in for 30 years.
Not a cream puff. It was maybe a, I don't know, dried prune.
Dried prune. It was a 3-day-old Tim Hortons donut is what it was. Anyway, but that's what happens in this kind of market when with these kind of, the lack of inventory coming on the market. So let's throw it over to Jaden for mortgages, news, tips.
Yes, yeah. So not a lot of movement this week. We're going to see the same kind of numbers across the board as we saw last week. But one of the interesting things is that 439 on the 5-year fix and the high ratio, which is when you put less than 20% down, is a bit of an anomaly. It was about a quarter point below anything else on the market, and that's exclusive to Alberta. It's one of our Albertan lenders here. And I'm starting to see some tightening on the back end of that. So there's other lenders that are creeping more down towards that kind of rate. And I think we're going to continue to see that through the rest of this year, that people are just kind of slowly going lower. And that's going to be based off a lot of things that are happening in Canada, and we're seeing some of the stuff heading towards a recession, but also in the United States, right? So yesterday, the U.S. Fed under Jerome Powell, they did another rate hike at a quarter point. But there was a lot of rhetoric in the way that he was talking. He's usually a very aggressive speaker about getting inflation under control, and we got to get on top of this and that. And he was a little bit more muted yesterday. And it's leading a lot of people to believe that's probably the last rate hike in the United States. and there's a lot of really smart, much smarter than me people that really believe that that's true. And so what's that's done in the background has had a minimal impact on the Canadian bond market as well. And so it's brought it down a little bit, and I think that's going to continue to happen. And so as that bond market comes down, you'll see some of these fixed rates continue to come down throughout the year. And then, we can talk about a little bit more later, but that's also the Bank of Canada at some point is going to have to start making some decisions as our economy really, really slows down into what they're doing with their rates. So those people who are into a variable right now and have been feeling the pain for the last, 8 months to a year, I think there's the clouds are clearing. I think there's a way forward there. Just continue to be patient. All the signs are heading in that direction.
Excellent.
All right. What is Radon, Natalie? Tell us all
Radon,
about this.
and this is directly. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm not saying this jokingly at all. This is a very serious issue for us in Southern Alberta, and a lot of people don't know about it. So a good time for some education.
Absolutely. And it piqued my interest because we were showing a new house in Airdrie the other day, and we saw the radon mitigation in the basement. And I was like, oh my goodness, they're doing it everywhere. So I started reading into it. So according to the City of Calgary website, radon is a radioactive gas that is offset directly. It's a breakdown of uranium in soil and rock. So it's colorless, odorless, tasteless. It's fine when it's out in the open air, but the problem is when it gets into a contained area in a house, if you have extreme high levels and you're exposed over a long period of time, it can cause cancer. And in fact, in the States, it is the second leading cause of lung cancer, which I was shocked on. So this little pictograph sort of shows how it can get in. It can sneak in through venting. It comes up through the groundwater, all that kind of stuff. So it really is something that you should get tested. And from what I'm reading, if we go to the next slide, they had said that it's recommended to do a test long-term, like between 90 and 365 days, specifically because the levels can fluctuate wildly. So it does give you a long-term reading, like however, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I can't talk.
Yeah.
And we did that in our house, and we have quite high levels, very high levels. So we are going to get a mitigation system put in. From what I was reading, they said that it can, it's between $2,000 and $2,500 to do it on average. And it does bring down those levels significantly. And it's a one day fix mostly. They also said that according to building codes, all new houses in Calgary and surrounding areas have to have a radon mitigation system. And if you are doing any kind of footprint expansion on your property, you will most likely have to do it as well. That is a big part of it. So, and Mark, you know a little bit more about the actual mitigation process in an existing home. So we drill into here, right?
Yeah, it looks like a tube coming out of the foundation in the basement, and then they have, as I understand it, there's a power venting fan that pulls that radon gas with a tube that exhausts on the outside of the foundation. So you'll see another tube coming out of your house, and that is where that radon gas gets exhausted. And as you mentioned, once it's out in the open, it's not a problem. It's just when it's in contained areas like basements where it becomes problematic.
Right, exactly. All right, moving on.
All right, so a couple of community events. Hey, Heritage Park Day Out with Thomas. Jaden, I got to ask you again, are you going to brave the crowds?
My kid does not care about Thomas the Tank Engine at all. So,
well, good for you.
Yeah, I know. So we're probably not going to do that. But you know what? With this weather, definitely out biking and like how Calgary is such a great biking, walking, find a park with a young family city. Can't beat the this time of year for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just pack your reactant.
That's right.
Yeah. So we got those other events going on. Yeah, so much happening. Just go outside. That's an event in itself.
Get some vitamin D.
Yeah. We've been doing a walk with a community group here in Woodbine every Saturday morning, exploring all sorts of different parts of Fish Creek Park. If you're in the south, I mean, really anywhere in the city. If you're in the north, Nose Hill is great. In the south, obviously, Fish Creek is stunning. If you're newer to Calgary, if you've never really explored it, then it is definitely worth checking out. The bike paths are amazing. And the ways that you can get around Calgary with all of our bike paths are really, really quite something. So there's some community events for you. And now we're going to get to our April market wrap up. So overall, I mean, benchmark price 1.2% up from last year. You can see those sales down just over 20% from last year. New listings, though, down 31%. So again, those numbers don't jive, right? And we've been seeing this month over month over month. So that's what's creating the frenzy in the market that we're still seeing. Inventory down 33%. Months of supply at 1.2. So what is months of supply? Again, if you don't know this term, happy to explain that to you. If there were no more new listings on the market, how long would it take based on the current sales to eat up that inventory? And that's 1.2. And that tells our chief economists and the people much smarter than me what kind of market we're in. And it is a seller's market. You can see those days on market in April was 24. And that's what we've been reporting really over the last month here as well. And so let's look at detached. So inventory is dropping across all segments. The biggest drop off is happening under 700,000. So when we have clients set up on searches under 700,000 detached, it's like just listed, 24 hours later, pending, just listed, pending. It's happening again, right? In our presentation last night, I called this slide. What did I say again? It was like more the same but different. 2023. The same but different. And it is. It really is like last year. There's just maybe 25, we can see the numbers, about 20% less sales, but way less homes getting listed too. Sales to new listing ratio, that's another indicator of what kind of market we're in. 88% of new listings sold in the month of April. Only City Center didn't see an increase. You can see the increases there. The April price, 661.9. So that's a pretty good bump up from March and 6% year over year. And we'll go to the next slide. Semi-detached, similar story. Sale to new listing ratio, 89%. They're actually tighter, the conditions. So when we say conditions, that means the amount of buyers in the market and the amount of listings in the market. So it actually has tightened up over 2022, which is crazy, right? So we had a 2% bump up in pricing from March and 2% year over year. And then when we head on over to our row townhouse people, it's actually the tightest of all segments. So the most amount of buyers, the least amount of listings, 95% sale to new listing ratio, which is bananas. And just wait till we head up north to Airdrie, and that's even crazier. Less than 1 month of supply. Northeast, east, and southeast with the biggest price gains, 2.4% up over March and 7% year over year. So row townhouses are doing well. Apartments, they're getting there. They're almost back to 2014 numbers. And they were the only segments, when we say segment, when we mean detached, semi-detached, row, and apartment. So they were the only segment where their sales rose over 2022. That's being boosted by more listings coming on the market. Makes sense, right? Their months of supply is actually at 1.5, so a little higher, and their sale to new listing ratio only 77%. Still really, really strong market if you're on the selling side, and still a very affordable product to get into. And there was a 2% increase over March, but 7% up since January. 7% up since January. All right, let's roll on to our bedroom community. So Airdrie, every single house, the new listing sale ratio, I can't even speak. It's 100%. It was craziness. Sales up, listings down. Broken record. Tell me something I don't know, Mark. So the record in 2022 for the high benchmark price was 510.7. And it's getting there. We're back up to 502, a little bump up from March, and 4.5% up just from January of this year. And then up to Cochrane. Cochrane months of supply 98% sale to new listing ratio. And again, really nuts up there. Minus 2% from April 2022 when they were super high up in Cochrane. Their total high was actually in June of last year at 522.6, but still a healthy, nice little increase over March and 2% down year over year. And then finally sliding down to the town with the best Costco ever, OKOTOKS, months of supply 1. That's the third straight month. It is, I think there's there were 67 total listings in OKOTOKS in the month of April. and that's the lowest it's been since 2006. Plus 5% up from April of last year. So OKOTOKS is really hitting the map, right? You want small town living, but you also want some really good conveniences. I mean, I'm joking, but like Costco, they have all the big box stores there. They've got a baseball team. They got an Alberta Junior Hockey League team with a fantastic arena, like plus the river, like so many great things about OKOTOKS. And then 5% up for year over year, and that price in April was a new monthly high. Woo! I can breathe. That's it. That is it. And my phone is ringing. Let's get that. Yeah, that's a wrap up. So Jayden, let's talk about the rest of the year now. We're already 15 minutes here, but I think this is important, right? Like, where do you see things heading? Where do I see things heading for the rest of 2023?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think I teased it a little. Well, I basically right out said it. I think we've reached peak rate, and it's coming down. You can see the people that are pricing the markets and what's going to happen. I believe that coming into summer and definitely in the fall, we're going to start seeing our rates, even on the variable side. I think that overnight rate that affects what prime is going to start coming down. And honestly, like we talked about it last night a little bit. The second, third, and fourth biggest bank collapse in the history of the U.S. happened in the last 6 weeks. Those are significant things that people, I think, aren't talking about enough. And all of the kind of economic indicators on the background are talking about a fairly significant recession. Obviously, something that we don't want to see. I think we're fairly resilient in Alberta. But that will have a significant impact on pricing, right? In terms of interest rates. So I think there's a little bit of comfort on the way in that way. And hopefully you can, especially going into 2024, we're going to start getting back into what I would call kind of a normal range of interest rates, which I think is between 2.5% and 3.5%. That's kind of where I think normal is. And so I really feel like we're heading back in that direction.
Okay. And for real estate, I mean, I think here's the reality. Real estate is all about supply and demand. As we know, what creates demand is net migration, as we've talked about many times on this show before. We're 6 quarters straight net migration in Alberta. Calgary's population is expected to grow exponentially in the next 10 years. So as long as we have job creation, net migration, we're going to continue to put pressure on we don't have enough housing starts in Calgary from a new build perspective. We don't have enough inventory on the market. So that's going to continue to drive prices up. And here's the reality, and I'm not trying to make a political statement, but when we have people moving here, our economy's doing well. And what happened in our last downturn in the real estate industry, 2015 to 2019, we had a different government and people left. I mean, that's just the stats. I'm not trying to make a statement here. People left the province in droves, right? So then what happens? We had more inventory on the market, drove prices down. So it's just math, it's just supply and demand. No politics here, people, but that's what happened, right? So if we continue, it'll depend a little bit on what happens at the end of this month, also with the election too. If we start seeing some policies, the other government gets in, start seeing policies they're similar to 2015 to 2019, I firmly believe that's not going to help us on the real estate side of things. It's going to be great for you as a buyer because prices are going to come down, bottom line. So that's it. That's all we got. That was 20 minutes worth of hopefully some good nuggets for you there. And Jayden, you enjoy the rest of the nice weather till it kind of cools off on the weekend.
Yeah, you guys as well.
Thank you.
Will do. And we'll talk to everybody in 7 days.
Bye.